Section 11. The Existential Analytic and the Interpretation of Primitive Dasein. The Difficulties of Achieving a Natural Conception of the World. The interpretation of Dasein in its everydayness, however, is not identical with the describing of some primitive stage of Dasein, with which we can become acquainted empirically through the medium of anthropology. Everydayness does not coincide with primitiveness, but is rather a mode of Dasein's being, even when that Dasein is active in a highly developed and differentiated culture, and precisely then. Moreover, even primitive Dasein has possibilities of a being which is not of the everyday kind, and it has a specific everydayness of its own. To orient the analysis of Dasein towards the life of primitive peoples can have positive significance, Bedeutung, as a method because primitive phenomena are often less concealed and less complicated by extensive self-interpretation on the part of the Dasein in question. Primitive Dasein often speaks to us more directly in terms of a primordial absorption in phenomena, taken in a pre-phenomenological sense. A way of conceiving things which seems perhaps rather clumsy and crude from our standpoint can be positively helpful in bringing out the ontological structures of phenomena in a genuine way. But heretofore our information about primitives has been provided by ethnology, and ethnology operates with definite preliminary conceptions and interpretations of human Dasein in general, even in first receiving its material and in sifting it and working it up. Whether the everyday psychology or even the scientific psychology and sociology which the ethnologist brings with him can provide any scientific assurance that we can have proper access to the phenomena we are studying and can interpret them and transmit them in the right way has not yet been established. Here too we are confronted with the same state of affairs as in the other disciplines we have discussed. Ethnology itself already presupposes as its clue an inadequate analytic of Dasein. But since the positive sciences neither can nor should wait for the ontological labours of philosophy to be done, the further course of research will not take the form of an advance, but will be accomplished by recapitulating what has already been ontically discovered, and by purifying it in a way which is ontologically more transparent. No matter how easy it may be to show how ontological problematics differ formally from ontical research, there are still difficulties in carrying out an existential analytic, especially in making a start. This task includes a desideratum which philosophy has long found disturbing, but has continually refused to achieve: to work out the idea of a natural conception of the world. The rich store of information now available as to the most exotic and manifold cultures and forms of Dasein seems favourable to our setting about this task in a fruitful way. But this is merely a semblance. At bottom, this plethora of information can seduce us into failing to recognise the real problem. We shall not get a genuine knowledge of essences simply by the syncretistic activity of universal comparison and classification. Subjecting the manifold to tabulation does not ensure any actual understanding of what lies there before us as thus set in order. If an ordering principle is genuine, it has its own content as a thing, Sachgehalt, which is never to be found by means of such ordering, but is already presupposed in it. So if one is to put various pictures of the world in order, one must have an explicit idea of the world as such. And if the world itself is something constitutive for Dasein, one must have an insight into Dasein's basic structures in order to treat the world phenomenon conceptually. In this chapter we have characterized some things positively and taken a negative stand with regard to others. In both cases our goal has been to promote a correct understanding of the tendency which underlies the following interpretation and the kind of questions which it poses. Ontology can contribute only indirectly towards advancing the positive disciplines as we find them today. It has a goal of its own, even if, beyond the acquiring of information about entities, the question of being is the spur for all scientific seeking.